Oh, good morning. Since it feels a little bit like Christmas this morning, that is right where I want to begin. Howard Thurman was a Black American preacher and theologian and wrote a lot of prayer poems. And one of his most famous is a piece that is in our Singing the Living Tradition hymnal section of readings, and it's called The Work of Christmas. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. Without mentioning presents and a tree or stockings or Christmas cards or cookies and family dinners and eggnog, without watching the Muppet Christmas Carol, Thurman tells us about the meaning of Christmas, the actual work based on the teachings of the person whose birth it celebrates. Thurman did not mean that the parties and gifts and church services and caroling and watching Love Actually on Netflix aren't good or even important. What his poem emphasizes is that alone they are not enough unless you go about the work that having faith in the teachings of Jesus afterwards will bring, which is the work really of any decent and caring and loving person. To find the lost, to comfort the hurting, to side with the oppressed, to be a bringer of peace and a maker of music in the heart. And that's sort of where we are this morning. It feels like Christmas. It's your birthday. It's a going away, coming home anniversary. You just got married party. Doesn't it feel like it? Chest muscles are more relaxed. The tension headache from clenching the chest seems gone. And you probably actually slept well last night. As my favorite theologian Bruce Springsteen says, it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. Enjoy the revel, but remember the reason. When the yard signs come down, when the bumper stickers are peeled off, when writing the postcards has stopped, when the standouts and phone banking and text banking has ended, when you take your campaign button off your coat and the votes have been counted and a winner declared, it's actually then that the work of democracy begins. It seems like campaigning is democracy. It seems like elections are democracy. It seems like polling and punditry and apologetics and arguing and opinion pieces are democracy. But all of those things are just mere pieces, not the entire reality of what democracy actually is and what it requires. Democracy requires many things that are out of the limelight, not the star of the show, in which we tend to forget about in our day-to-day living apart from election season, but which are essential for democracy to live and breathe and remain healthy and vital. Every election can be treated like a test and performance evaluation of the system. Our constant challenge is to do the hard work in between elections when it's less glamorous and more difficult to fit into our daily life. And we will return to that, but not today. Today is like Christmas Day. Today we rejoice. We rest and rejoice today, but we return to the work of building beloved community tomorrow. We rest and rejoice today, but we resume the pilgrim journey to the world we dream about tomorrow. We rest and rejoice today, but we renew our commitment to side with love tomorrow. There is no doubt our work is not done. Not by a long shot. The last 4 years in this election cycle have emphasized and put exclamation points on the things still wrong with our country, our culture, and our system. Things need to be fixed, not because they're broken, but because it's time for things to work differently. It's a flawed system, but it's not broken. It was designed to work the way it does. And I'm sure we can all rattle off a list of things that need fixing. How about we abolish the Electoral College? We abolish the Senate. It's completely dysfunctional and undemocratic. A person representing 600,000 people shouldn't have the equivalent power in the legislature as a person representing 6 million people. Increase the House of Representatives, lower by half the number of people that are represented by each representative in the House. Make voting a legal requirement, as it is in Australia. Punishable by fines, graduated like an income tax, and make Election Day a national paid holiday, a democracy Sabbath. Eliminate every barrier to voting and severely increase penalties for voter suppression and intimidation. Eliminate voter registration. Broadcast all vote counting live on the internet. Have national guidelines for how many citizens per polling place. Waiting an hour in line is reasonable, waiting 6 is not. Reverse Citizens United and severely limit campaign financing by anything other than individuals and limit that amount severely. No elected or government official should be above the law. Encourage the development of more political parties and use ranked choice voting in all elections. More political parties and ranked choice voting more accurately reflect the variety and spectrum of the political opinion in the country, and reflect the will of the people, and expand the dialogue beyond the center in ways that allow consideration of new ideas in a much less threatening way. They also increase coalition building and make campaigning less negative. We can and we will work towards these reforms, but not today. Today we revel and remind ourselves the reason for the season. We will rest and rejoice today, and we will return to the work of building beloved community tomorrow. We will rest and rejoice today, but we will resume the pilgrim journey to the world we dream about tomorrow. We will rest and rejoice today, and we will renew our commitment to side with love once again tomorrow. The majority of America has repudiated hate, racism, meanness, and ignorance this week. But there are still important conversations and arguments to have and an important consensus to build. We need to lift up and exalt the idea of human rights, that the things the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights says everyone is entitled to without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or any other limitation of sovereignty. True rights should never be subjected to law and popular vote. Arbitrary human differences such as gender expression, religion, skin color, sexual orientation cannot be a reason for treating anyone unfairly differently. It should never be up to a court or a vote to decide who can and cannot do something, have something, access something based on any arbitrary human difference. Secure life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by making education, healthcare, housing, food, and water free for all people. We will take up this conversation and the struggle to establish a baseline of human rights in our country, but not this morning. This morning, we are going to relax just a little bit and allow ourselves the luxury of truly believing and feeling in our heart the hope of peace on earth and goodwill to all people. This morning, we will enjoy the revel, even though we know we need to remember the reason for the season. We rest and rejoice today, and we will return to building beloved community tomorrow. Today we will rest and rejoice, but we will resume the pilgrim journey to the world we dream about tomorrow. We rest and rejoice today, but we will renew commitments to side with love tomorrow. We live into a light-hearted holiday spirit this Sunday morning, and we know we have work to do on our faith as well. We are called to lift up the role and importance of faith and faith communities such as ours. We have a fundamental and essential role to play in doing the work of democracy. And as Unitarian Universalists, democracy is not just a nice idea based on human rights that every person should have a say in the government they live under, but one of the fundamental truths in which we place our trust, our faith. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Some of us do not like to think of Unitarian Universalism as a faith or a religion, but I do. It is the value that binds us to each other and a tradition. Faith is that which we put our most basic and foundational trust in. I want to be bound by principles and inspired by our sources, and I trust these things to make sense of my world and my life. One of the roles religion plays for us is to help us find and strengthen what Reverend William Barber Jr. calls the moral center. Beyond left and right and progressive and conservative, there's a space of basic decency and kindness and fairness, the moral center, an ethical ground on which all should stand. And the moral center is imperative because no matter how many rules and safeguards to have a fair, equitable system of government and elections, the health of our society, the health of our elections, and our government depends on things that cannot be legislated effectively. Laws and rules are the lowest common denominator, the least bad reality we can allow. They are important, but no matter how just or justly determined laws are, there will always be those who will cheat, lie, and steal their way around them. The only thing guaranteeing a democratic system works is the people of integrity will outnumber the people who lack integrity. A Supreme Court doesn't guarantee justice, the integrity of the judges does. A certain type of governmental system such as capitalism or socialism does not ensure a just society. The integrity of the people running the system does. Fair elections don't ensure a just outcome. The integrity of the electorate does. Ultimately, fairness and justice rely on people refusing to vote for their side if their side or candidate lacks integrity and decency and justice. One of the earliest votes I cast in a major election was in the 1990 gubernatorial election in Massachusetts. I voted for the Republican William Weld. I voted for him that year, even though I may have agreed with a little more of the Democratic platform. But the Democratic candidate, John Silber, was a mean, nasty, abhorrent man. He was known for what he called Silber shockers, saying things that were way offbeat and rude and mean. He was against gay rights, proposed cutting off benefits for unmarried mothers who had a second child or more on public aid. He questioned saving the lives of old, ill people, quoting Shakespeare saying, when you've had a long life and you're ripe, it's time to go. When asked by an interviewer to name one of his weaknesses, he said, "You find a weakness. I don't have time to tell you what's wrong with me." He was rude, nasty, and mean. He was like Trump before Trump. I could not vote for him because decency matters. Love and kindness matter. Integrity matters. It's not okay to rush through a Supreme Court nomination one year, but to not even hold the confirmation process another. It's not okay to make voting more difficult. And it's not okay to say actual white supremacists are good people. And we're going to get to work on all of this, but not today. Today, we are going to rest and rejoice. We'll return to the work of building beloved community tomorrow. We will rest and rejoice today, but we will resume the pilgrim journey to the world we dream about tomorrow. We will rest and rejoice today and renew our commitments to side with love tomorrow. Perhaps the most difficult task we return to tomorrow is healing harmful and dramatic divides between the people in our country who have vastly different views of the world and have vastly different political opinions and cultural norms. In order to make sure our democracy becomes vital and healthy and robust again, we must find a way to talk to each other, and more importantly, to hear each other. This is not easy because as harmful as the division among us is, falling into feel-good or irrational false equivalencies is also wrong. There are not good people on both sides when one side is white supremacists. White supremacists are not good people by definition. You are a bad person if you are a racist and a white supremacist. But that does not make you an inhuman one. You are still a person. We must never fall into the dehumanization engaged in by some that makes those who disagree with them not wrong but evil, and casts upon people they disagree with an identity that is less than human. For dehumanization is required if you are to hurt, to harm, or kill other people. You must, however briefly or however deeply, truly believe others are not quite like you, not human like you, don't feel, bleed, hurt, laugh, and cry like you. There is enough othering already. We must not fall into it. We may love our enemies without liking them. We may find ways to hold them in love even during times we must uphold the demands of love and justice. We will not push aside love and justice for civil convenience and avoiding difficult emotions and conversations. We will learn how to better have those conversations, how to love our enemies so that we don't sacrifice actual peace and fellowship for the absence of conflict and tension. We will be kind, but that may require that we are not always nice. We may even sometimes have to be a little nasty. But we are able to love our neighbor this way. And we are able to love each other. And we are able to not have each other be enemies. And we will get to this difficult work, but not today. Today we enjoy the revel, even as we remember the reasons. Today, we rest and rejoice, for tomorrow, the work of democracy begins.